Got quite a bit of work that I'm going to be doing, and hopefully the payoff will be worth it. Going to try and get, not the car started, like a lot of the accessories, windows, lights, my dash, some other things done. I'm not going to say I'm going to do it today because I know how that stuff turns out for me. I am going to get this done in this video. Got quite a bit of wiring, not as much wiring as doing the engine harness, but it's still a lot. It's very important to get this stuff done and get it done right. You don't want any issues down the road. At least I don't want any issues down the road. So to start off, I got some battery cables. I believe this is 2-aught gauge. Yeah, yep. Oh, this is a 0 gauge wire. I honestly thought I got like a 2-aught gauge, but got 0 gauge wire that I'm going to be using for battery power. And then I also picked up battery relocation terminals, jumper battery relocation terminals. I don't know what these are called, but before I even start really talking about what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to get working on this first, just so that when I start drilling the holes, I can get it painted and it can dry over the time, getting all this other stuff wiring done. By the time I get done with the paint and whatnot, I can keep on going with the rest of the wiring. So right now, I'm gonna focus on getting this stuff done. This is gonna take the most amount of time, so might as well make that time worth it. Now, I've seen some videos of fellow S2000 owners making these work and actually putting these terminals like right next to here. And I think I got a pretty good place, like for the most part. I don't know how they was able to get both of these here in this amount of space without, you know, cutting the VIN number, but I do got the correct drill bit, drill cutter hole, whatever it's called. I think I'm gonna try to like put one like right here, right next to the grommet, and then possibly put another one on the other side as well. But before I do that, I'm gonna take off this cowl, which means I gotta take off these wiper blades. Cowl is off. You can see all the work that I've been doing, which isn't a lot. You get to see some of the wiring and stuff that are inside the cowl. The reason why I'm putting these in, a few things. One is that I do not have a keyhole for my trunk lid anymore. You can see no keyhole, which is why I ended up making a like an emergency latch. This is about maybe a few years ago. It's probably dark, but you can see like this wire right here. I ended up doing that because I no longer have access to this trunk unless there is power to this car. Instead of keeping that, which I still might just in case something happens, but instead of using that to the trunk lid, which I keep my battery, keep it underneath this panel. Instead of pulling on that cable, taking off the trunk lid and taking off whatever is inside this trunk just to get to the battery to jump it, instead of doing that, we wire up the battery to these terminals all the way up to the front. Grab some jumper cables, put it to the front of the car, and then push the trunk latch release inside the car, and then boom, you know, you have power going to it and I don't have to do anything extra. Also, another reason for these is that I do need to run a battery cable wire to the starter that's on the side of the engine and transmission. What I'm going to be doing is once I run the battery cable to the cowl, I can run cable from the post all the way to the starter, so I don't have to run any other wires across the engine bay. I can keep everything inside the cowl and try to keep it away from the heat as much as I can. I only have one shot at this, so I gotta make it count. I'm going to start from the furthest out, try to get it as close to the VIN number as I can without cutting into it, and then after that I'm gonna work my way to the inside. Like I said, I only got one shot to this, so it is definitely measure twice, cut once type of deal. Doing some quick test fitting, and unfortunately I don't have enough space to put each of these terminals like side by side. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill these threads out to make the hole, and then I'm gonna put the other terminal like right above the VIN number, and hopefully it won't cover it. Not that it's a big deal, I know the VIN number and whatnot. So I'm gonna get to work on making that first cut, and then I'm gonna end up doing this second because this is the easiest one to do. Terminals on, and for the most part, at least the negative one, it clears the VIN. All I gotta do for the VIN, you can just pop this terminal off and you can somewhat see the VIN underneath it. These off, get them painted, and as they are drying, I'm gonna start working on trunk because I got a few goodies for that as well. So here is my original battery terminal cables that I made years ago. Not these two. These two are going to the Nexus R3, which I made a few weeks ago before I took the car to the shop, just to try to get the length on it. Disregarding these for the moment, these are my original battery terminals that I've used since I got the car when I first relocated the battery from the front to the trunk. These work for what they are designed for. I think I did a pretty crappy job when it came to wiring these. Or new ones that I got. The good thing about these is that they have five different lugs you can bolt onto these compared to pretty much realistically just one. It was pretty hard getting all these wires bunched up. The car started no problem all the time. It's just that when it comes to adding more cables to the battery, this just isn't going to cut it, and this is where this comes in. So I'm gonna take these off, remove them, and then I gotta start making lugs for these, which I already have. They are right here, plus I have like a little mini pack assortment. I also got these huge lug nut crimpers, battery lug crimpers, that's what it's called. Battery cable lug crimpers. I got these as well, so I can get this job done. I got each battery terminal on. Plan on running a few more cables for this. 5 attachment points for this battery terminal. One is going to be the battery. Another one is going to be my amp that's back here. I got another one that I'm going to be making provisions for, which is the PDM that I'm going to be getting hopefully sometime next year, so I can delete my fuse box. Then the other two are going to be for the R3 that I've already made, which is these two cables right here. So I'm going to worry about getting some power up front, and instead of running another battery cable out to the front to run the starter, I ended up getting this. This is a battery distribution block. Got it because of all the things I'm going to be running up front. I didn't want to keep running more and more battery cables from the back to the front when I could just run one battery cable, this block, and distribute power that way. I just repainted these holes, so I got about maybe 10-15 minutes. I'm gonna figure out where I want to mount this up. I already have an idea, but I'm gonna double check if I can. I'm going to mount it. It's actually underneath this fuse box. Pretty happy that I already took this off in order to make this hole. So I'm gonna take this completely off so I can start drilling some holes for this. By the time that's done, these holes will be dried again so I can do another coat on the back side. There's 4 lugs for this block. I only need 3, but then again, if I need an extra one sometime in the future, I will run it. But right now, I only need 3, like right here if I have the space. Do a quick little mop up. Somewhat like this if I have the space for it. Do have to worry about the steering control module right there when it comes to making the battery cables. But I'm gonna take this bracket off right now so I can have more space, because I do need to drill these set screws in so I can get this thing mounted. Now, all the battery cables terminated for the most part, besides this 4-aught gauge. I got this one coming from the battery, this one going to the other side of the engine bay, this one going to the fuse box. There's one problem that I'm going to run into, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, and that is get this battery wire into this rubber ground. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this, but I'm gonna try if I can make this work. If it does work, then I probably won't be taking that back out again, and I'm gonna keep it just like that. So I'm gonna spend about 5 to 10 minutes trying to get this thing in there. So I got the wires to fit. I'm gonna lock up the distribution block, and which is gonna be probably underneath the fuse box. And then I'm going to make the final cut for battery cable that's going to the terminal behind the cowl. Block is all set up. I have to do some measurements for the battery cable going to the trunk, but now I can start putting them in. Start locking these things down just for a really quick test fit. Done. Got the cover. I'm about to test fit this just to make sure everything's good. Did this a few times already, but just wanted to make sure. And secure this. I was only able to put 2 screws in here to mount it because I couldn't find my punch, even though I used it to make these holes. It's like every time I use it, I lose it for like 2 weeks. Okay, now this is done. I'm going to cut this cable to fit. So everything's back together. Box is right underneath everything else. You can see it. It's You know, it's not an obvious thing, but it is needed for all of this to work. The battery cable was able to make a really good bend and not kink up. The last one I gotta do for the engine side is make the ground cable, which I can do without having to have the battery cables installed. The reason why I did this one because I wasn't able to get the cable through the grommet and put it on. So this one I can do it off the car. So I just wrapped up the ground wire for the wiper cowl. It is getting pretty dark within like the engine bay area, so I can't really see anything, nor can I film. I do have 2 more cables to do. I'm gonna do it off camera, or I'm gonna do it before I leave, and then tomorrow I'm gonna get back at this, work on the trunk, 2 more cables for that one, and then after that I can try to get some power to this car so I can see if everything that I've done is going to go well. Got here a little bit earlier than I did before, so I can get as much as I can done, and hopefully be able to get done for the sunset. Was able to make all the cables for the alternator and starter last night. So I got the starter cable wrapped around in the back behind the wiper control module, or the wiper motor, and got it wrapped around the brake booster, goes all the way down. I might change this cable out to a black one just so it can fade in to the engine bay a little bit more, but right now I'll keep it red. And then I also have the alternator cable that's on the same thing. I do have to eventually get on the ground, jack this car up, and put the starter in so I can cut and gauge everything correctly for those cables. Right now I'm gonna keep it right there, put the wiper cowl back on, and then I'm gonna start working on the back again, because that's almost done. I don't have any lug terminal rings for the PDM, so I'm just gonna route the cable wire. I'm gonna put it in the exact same space that I put everything else underneath the airbag delete. Cowl's back on, everything looks pretty flush and clean. Switched out that red cable for a black one, and I think both cables you can see underneath the car. I got the PDM cable wired through. Today it was loose all the way going from the trunk in the back next to the main battery cable. Going to the carpet all the way up top. This is how much length I have when it comes to where I can mount this. I'm hoping, because I gotta make another plate, I'm hoping that by deleting the water pump control, I can add like a spacer or a mount that will go higher than amplifier, and then pretty much from here to here will probably occupy the space of the PDM. Do some measurements of that, and then when I get it, all I gotta do is just put a ring terminal to it, wire everything up, and then that'll be good to go. But I'm gonna close this up because I have no need, and then I'm gonna put all this other stuff back because I got all this trim inside the car that no longer needs to be just out and sitting. So I got everything set up, everything's wired up correctly, hopefully. Now we're going to see if I can get some power to this. Battery for my daily and my jumper cables from it. And we're gonna test it, we're gonna jump start it, or not jump start, but we're gonna jump the power from the engine bay and see if we get power to anything else in this car. Crossing fingers that I do. Cables that's going to the car, cable going to the battery. Positive goes to positive. And then moment of truth, negative goes to, let's check the first thing. I think the first thing we can check is probably the lights. Okay, so lights work. Let's check the key. All right, we got static from the key, and we got dash lights and everything. Cool. Now I was hoping that this was gonna work. I was messing around with the display on my laptop with this, so I'm pretty happy that this turned out the way it did. This, I'm actually happy for this too. That's so cool. All right. Let's do another quick check. Windows. Okay, passenger side doesn't work. Okay, driver side works. Oh yeah, I do got a keypad. I could adjust this. This was like years ago when I found out about this dash. Is that you can customize this the way you want. So that's what I'm gonna do. I got this keypad And we're gonna make this more ideal for my setup. So let's see what we can do. Pad on, let's see what we can mess with. Enter, okay. Appearance. And what does the appearance do? Theme. Okay, so you got different colors you can pick from. Oh, Apex blue, that's pretty cool. I like blue. Formula red. Cool white, that's what it's on right now. Molo orange. You know, I think I'm gonna stick with the white for right now. I like how that looks. Layout. This layout is. What's that layout do? Okay, AP1. That's what I have at AP1. And then you can change it. AP2. Okay, that's pretty cool. AP2CR, what's that one? Oh, okay. So that's what the CR looks like. You know what? I'm a huge fan of the AP1. But it looks as if I might be keeping a lot of the stuff that it came with.